How can you compete when you're in a multi-offer situation as a home buyer? That's what we're talking about today, and we're going to get started right now. I'm Jennifer King with RE/MAX. I've been in real estate sales since 2004, and as a result, I get a lot of questions a lot of the time, especially in a hot seller's market, from buyers on how can they possibly compete when it comes to being in a multiple offer situation on the home they want to buy. That's what we're talking about, and here's a few of my favorite tips. A seller's market can be frustrating and exhausting for buyers who look at homes, maybe even repeatedly make offers on homes, and continue to not get the home of their dreams. So, here are some things you might want to consider. Number one, as big of a deposit as possible. The escrow money deposit is also known as an earnest money deposit or a good faith deposit, meaning that you are showing good faith in moving forward with the transaction by the amount of funds that you're putting down. Most sellers like to see larger deposits rather than smaller deposits, so certainly as large as possible, anything between 3 and 5 or 10% is fantastic. Certainly 1 to 3% can work on the lower price ranges as well if necessary. The deposit is held by the listing office in a special escrow account, which is a non-interest bearing account that must adhere with state and municipal guidelines. And so there's no worries about your money disappearing. In fact, it just comes back to you, the buyer, as a credit at settlement off of the closing costs that you would need to bring anyway. Number two, trying to work with the sellers on their desired settlement date is huge. So if a seller needs a little bit longer to get out, or if their house is vacant and they're looking for an ASAP settlement, having your agent find out the details of the seller's situation and trying to work within those parameters can certainly give you a hand up or a leg up when you're competing against other offers. Number three, inspections. We generally always recommend that home buyers do have home inspections completed as part of the purchase process. That's your way of having a professional look over the property from top to bottom, basement to roof, and give you any warning signs or indications of expenses that they foresee in the near future or longer term that you should begin budgeting for, and also helps you gain understanding on how to operate the home that's going to be likely your biggest investment. In a competing offer situation, it is sometimes appropriate to consider either reducing the amount of inspections that you're doing or possibly deciding to waive the inspections. In either case, you need to be aware there is some risk involved because you're going to be unaware and purchasing the property as is. But just like any other situation, once you get to settlement, the home is yours and those repairs and expenses are going to be yours no matter what anyway. So for example, if a seller put in a brand new heating system and the roof is new and the plumbing's been looked at or redone, there's a lot of things that sellers sometimes have done, and you might have a comfort level of saying, you know what, we're going to take our chances. We'd like a leg up in negotiation, and hoping that the sellers more seriously consider our offer, at which point maybe we pull out the inspections, take that risk, knowing that it is a risk, and that could be something positive for a seller. For a seller's standpoint, that would mean for them, it's going to be one less step in the home sale process where there's going to be potential hassle and negotiations and having to renegotiate the terms of the contract. Number four, price. Well, it's obvious most people would consider that the highest price is likely to be the winning bidder. However, most sellers will look closely at all terms associated with the offers being presented. So on price, you have to keep in mind if you're offering $400,000, but you're asking for the seller to pay $15,000 of your closing costs, you're essentially offering $385,000, right? So if you would offer $385,000 on a $400,000 list price and someone else is offering $400,000 and no seller's assistance or seller credits at closing, obviously the net is going to be what the sellers are looking at. So it's important to keep that in mind as you structure your offer. Working with an experienced agent can make all the difference in looking at the entire structure of the offer and the terms of the offer and helping you put your best foot forward in hopes of purchasing the home of your dreams. Number 5, the escalation clause. What is an escalation clause? An escalation clause can be used by buyers as another way to set yourself apart from the other offers you're competing with. For example, on a $400,000 home, you may opt to use an escalation clause where it's permitted anyway. In our area, that is a permitted use, an addendum that's actually available through the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. With the escalation addendum, the way it would work is if I know that I'm competing as a buyer, I may say I'm willing to pay up to $415,000 for that $400,000 property. So I will offer to outbid any of the other offers on the table by $2,000 or $3,000 up to a max of $415,000. So that absolutely could help you get into the home of your dreams by being the winning bidder if you consider using an escalation clause. So it's especially important that you have an experienced realtor who can guide you through structuring properly all of the terms of the contract and whether or not an escalation clause addendum may be appropriate for your situation. Number 6, seller terms to suit. What does that mean? Well, if the seller has said they're excluding certain things like personal property, maybe they have special light fixtures or mirrors or things that normally may stay with the house and they would like to exclude them and replace them with standard fixtures. Or maybe they say they really want to leave all the appliances because they're doing a long distance move, don't want to pay to ship all of those things. It's best to try and work within those. So for example, if you don't need the appliances, maybe you sell them. But trying to work with the seller on the items they are hoping to leave with the property and also the items they hope to remove from the property can definitely work in your favor when you're in a competing offer situation. Number 7, financing. Every seller loves a cash deal. However, that's not everyone's reality for sure. So, conventional financing is typically viewed most desirable, and then next in line would come USDA or rural housing loans or FHA or VA government loans. Any one of those can be utilized to purchase a property, and it's important that you talk to your agent or lender about the pros and cons from a seller's standpoint when you're in a competing offer scenario. When it comes to financing, we definitely recommend that you lean on a trusted lending professional, mortgage person who can give you good counsel, somebody who's got a lot of experience. There are pros and cons as a buyer to each loan type, and for a seller, from their vantage point, there are certainly pros and cons as well. And between your realtor and your lender, hopefully they can help you understand the differences so that you can choose the option for the best financing for you for your competing offer. And last but not least, it's a little corny maybe, but it does have some influence sometimes. Most sellers are really curious if we have any knowledge of who's buying the home. So why not give them a picture of who you are, what you love about the property, why you hope to make it your home, and is this a rental? Is this going to be a long-term thing? What is your family envision for living in the home? Are you in love with the outdoor spaces? Do you find that the finished basement would be perfect for the entertaining that you do with family and friends? Sometimes writing a short note to accompany your offer, and sometimes even including pictures. Some sellers like it, some sellers maybe aren't fazed by that, but it is often a question in every seller's mind, irregardless of the emotion involved. When they are looking at offers, they are curious, who are the people behind the names on that sheet of paper, and what does that look like for their neighbors and for their neighborhood if they choose that offer? So something to consider. Who knows, it could be the thing that sets your offer apart as well. Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like the video if it's been helpful for you. I'd love to hear your comments below and any other tips that you may have for competing in a multi-offer situation. And I appreciate you watching. I hope you'll stop back again. I do put out new videos every single week, and I hope to see you next time.